or Chief Officer of Finance, how much did you spend on employees in this financial year?
Chairman,
4.2 billion?
it is 53%, yeah. 4.2 billion.
4.2 billion.
Yeah.
Now, the 4.2 excludes salaries for 2 months, isn't it?
Does it exclude for
So if you are to include the salary for 2 months.
1 month.
No, you are not indicates it excludes May and June.
No, just 1 month. Yeah.
Yes, Senator.
Is it 53 as of today or on that under review? I thought as of today is 55%, or as it took to 53. And then
Actually, that's what I'm driving at.
okay.
Because the figure of 4.2 billion, I think just look at the notes under compensation of employees. At least they have made a good disclosure there. Where they are saying underutilization of 17% in compensation of employees was a result of delayed receipt of funds, which consequently resulted to non-payment of May and June 2024 salaries. So 4.2 excludes 2 months. If you are to add the 2 months, what is the true annual cost? This one the accountant should have at their fingertips, so that we tell whether is it 52%, is it 55%, and then let's look at other counties, how they are performing, and then we ask ourselves what then is special about Homabay. See, Chief Officer, what's your average monthly spend on salary?
Please.
Thank you, Chair. About 475 million average.
So if 4.2 excluded 2 months, it is reasonable to say that your spend on employees that year was probably 5 billion.
Yes. Thereabout.
Yes, Chair.
So what is that growth from the prior year?
The prior year was how much?
Because prior year, your cost was 4.2 billion. In the year under review, you are probably at 5 billion. So the problem is getting worse. How do we explain we're already in a tight fiscal space, but our compensation of employees is growing by, I think that's 900 million in a year. I'm referring to the numbers, so maybe there's a story, but they say numbers don't lie.
I think the 4.2, there was no payment for, they had not paid for a month that year, the previous year. There was a month that was not paid. Just the same way we had.
Which one? The
previous
one, the prior year.
Yes, the one the prior year. That is the advice.
There was 1 month.
Yeah, there was 1 month not paid. And then there is a question of statutory, especially employer.
Just on that, so that, okay, so the 4.2 for 22-23, we can adjust it by another 400 million. The 4.2 for 23-24, we adjust it by 900 million. There's still a growth of about 400 million.
And so we have been looking at that figure seriously, and it has been a major question of employer obligations. And there was a long period, if you look at our payment of employer obligations, particularly pensions, submission of pensions and gratuities, that was not included for many, many months. And so when we brought on board and decided that you have to pay the employer, you have to put in the employer obligations, the pensions, the gratuities, and then any other levies that were introduced, like the housing levy, which is about another 11 million per month in Homabay. Then now it brought the figure up reasonably. Of course, including some a bit of additional recruitments also that we did. Thank you.
Chair, just a question on the housing. Governor?
I'm just advised that the statutory deductions that we are not remitting were about 52 million on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Okay, so the question that I'm asking is, did the county government make salary adjustments to cater for housing? Because you see it's like there's an increment of 11 million. Did you do any adjustments?
No, this is the employer side, because the levy was imposed and you have to pay it from the employer side, and there was no increase in the equitable share to cover for that increased cost.
It's 11 million per month?
About 11 million.
That's what.
But for the statutory reductions, that should have been covered under pending bills. I thought it is there. It cannot constitute the increase in the amount for compensation of employees.
Yeah, when you start to now remit employer obligations, then you will not pay the same as when you are not remitting the employer obligations. So if you are paying, you can just say it was 350 million maybe, but now you have to pay 400 because of the 52 million that the county made a decision that we must be able to remit our employer obligations. So that I was responding to the question on why there was an increase in the amount that we have been paying.
Okay, we hold it for a minute. You know, there's a special audit on payroll that was done by the Office of the Auditor General. Governor, I don't know whether you have seen a copy of that audit report. A payroll audit that was done across the 47 counties. I think it must be under the Kenya Devolution Support Program or something like that. Have you been furnished with a copy of that report?
Yes, it was done, and we were given. It was brought to my office. Yes.
Because I've read that report, and it is inconsistent with what the auditor has raised here. That report indicates that in one financial year, your headcount increased by 15%. In one financial year, between 22, 23, and 23, 24. That was a 14% growth in staff headcount. In this report of the Auditor General, if you look at this query around diversity, the diversity of employees in Homabay County, my concern is not even on the diversity issue. My concern is on the numbers. Because I said I'm going to cross-reference the HR issue so that we move quickly instead of reading one by one. Non-compliance with provisions on ethnic diversity, affirmative action on gender, and persons living with disabilities. The substantive issue there, I think, have been canvassed by our sister committee, the Cohesion Committee, which I believe you have appeared before on some of these subjects. But the interesting thing is that the Auditor General said you have 6,986 employees. Is that the correct figure?
The current number of employees that you have, Chairman, is 7,100. And 7,183.
But in your response, the written responses that we considered and took to the House, you indicated you had 7,554.
Chairman, we have been carrying out an audit in our departments. What we have instituted, we've instituted a HR roundtable, and we have now been making comparison of figures that report to work in the department versus what is on the payroll. And after doing that through a couple of months, we have settled on a final figure now there of 7,183. The figure has been swinging because you see people on the payroll that are not also earning salaries and so on. So we keep on removing them, and we keep on improving on that system. And finally, we told every chief officer who's an authorized officer, bring the people who are actually reporting to work, bring the payroll, make a comparison, and we've done that over a couple of months. And I think our figure now stands at 7164.
There is a fourth number. There is a fourth number from the OAG's payroll report. Clerk, can you just check that? There's a table in it that shows the growth of headcount, and I think it puts it at a far much lower number, even though there was a query where there were ghost workers. I think that report has slightly below 6,000, which then does not make sense when you compare with the OAG's number. The number you had in March, was 7,554, and the number you have today is 7,183. Now, just a minute, I'll give you the opportunity, but I wanted to propose that since the payroll audit report is very substantive, and Homabay is far in the red as far as HR issues are concerned, we could convene a substantive meeting where the governor internalizes the report and does a proper formal response, because it has some observations which, if we take without challenging, will lead us to the conclusion that as far as HR practices are concerned, Homabay is a crime scene. It has allegations of staff with dates of birth that are inconsistent with their birth certificates. It has allegations or observations of staff who were called for a physical audit and only a small percentage appeared. I think it would be fair to prosecute that report in a proper formal meeting so that we are not ambushing the governor with the numbers.
Chair,
But,
maybe I can ask only
Senator
general questions. Governor, I can see 83% of your work staff are men. What is the challenge? Women of Homabay are not applying for positions. Maybe you can highlight that, and the fact that they have elected you. I'm not saying they have elected you because you are a woman, of course, because you are a leader. Number two, on this, just general, because we will, compensation of employees, in this 4 billion plus that you pay and other temporary employees, maybe just you can tell us, are all of them paid through IPPD, both permanent and temporary workers? Number three, in this head count, I know there are people who maybe have suspended and what have you, and I think yesterday you did suspend HR of Roads Department, who allegedly abducted a People Daily journalist. And Chair, you should be careful in Homabay. It could be one of the 1 million ways to die as a journalist. Because if you speak against something in Homabay, as a journalist, you are likely to be abducted. And it is on record.
No,
and you didn't suspend.
That cannot be a fact. That can only be an opinion.
No, I'm talking about allegedly.
Yes.
And by the way, the facts are that the governor suspended one of the officers of HR in Roads, and I think Roads Department, over allegations of adoption of a journalist. So we don't want to hear such stories from our counties. So in this head count, what are the challenges apart from suspension, disciplinary action? What is it that you are facing as a challenge? Just a general overview, then when you come for substantive. So those are my three questions. Whether all the employees are on IPPD, why is it that 83% are men? Where are the women in Homabay? And then finally, on the issue of headcount, maybe you can give the general overview. I think.
Chair, so that you can answer both. I would also want to know the methodology that you used in your staff audit to give you 7183. What is the methodology?
Governor?
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, I want to take great exception, just for the record, with the comments of Senator Cherargei on Homabay, 1,000 ways to die there.
No, I
want to
ruled
take great exception.
I've ruled him out of order, so you don't need to respond to that. That was out of order. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman.
Because I want us to deal with the audit issues. Let's leave things that are out there.
I thought they said there was a nature officer that was suspended over allegations of abduction.
Let's
It's a fact. Unless she says she didn't do it.
Senator Cherarke, let's deal with these substantive issues.
But it's part of the HR.
Let's deal with the substantive issues. Governor, could you respond to the substantive issue? I know sugar levels are going down.
I'd like to do that.
But the longer we prevaricate, the more we are going to stay here.
Chair, I pray that you guide us, please. Where we are, what you need to do, Chair, let's stick to the audit queries and process those issues as responded.
So, Governor, don't respond to issues that are not here.
Okay, Chairman. You know, Chairman, where Homabay has come from and where we are, and that is why I wanted to just...
Chair, just on it, before the governor speaks. You know, we should also be alive of what is happening. We are not morticians, and unless you are telling us we are morticians, it's a fact, and it's a nature issue. I was just asking, allegedly, that some people have been suspended. It's a fact, and it's affecting HR. So it was only for the governor...
The suspension of officers and 1,000 ways to die are two very unrelated things.
Okay. Now let's leave the 1,000 ways to die.
Yeah,
let's leave 1,000.
So that must be struck off the handset. The inference that being in Homabay as a journalist is among the 1,000 ways to die, I think that must be struck off the handset.
Anyway, Chair, that was my opinion. Let me now mention Governor, the other part.
I have cleared that matter. Let's go to the HR issue.
Chair, thank you, Chairman. I wanted to...
You had asked your 3 questions. Let the Governor respond, please.
Governor, Chair, so that I'm not misunderstood, I wish you could give me 30 seconds. I agree with the other parties be struck out, but I was just asking, as part of the HR issue, I did not say, because it's something that happened yesterday.
No, I think the objectionable part has been struck off the record, so we could proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. We have had all our staff on the HRIS. It's no longer the IPPD now. All our staff have been on the put on the HRIS. And the data that has been referred to by Senator Cherarke about our staff being 83% men, I think it is, I'm not sure which report he was referring to, because the gender of our employees is 53% women and 46% men. Chairman, on the question of the methodology that we used to get the 7183 number, putting our staff on the HRIS has enabled us to now have full visibility of the staff that we have. This is a continuous process because staff are leaving and joining also every day. So we have instituted a HR roundtable done by the Public Service Board and the authorized officers. And every month you make a report of who is in your department and is actually reporting to work, and who has left, who has been transferred, and we are making comparisons with that against the payroll. So it's it's an exercise that we are carrying out monthly to be able to weed out the staff. We are now also going to institute biometric staff reporting elements, so that every time a staff reports, they would use the biometrics so that we note that they're there, and even geofencing of staff who work in the field, and so that we know that they're actually reporting to work. Chairman, that is going to help us to come as low as possible on this issue of the staff, because it is of course a concern. But Chairman, remember the first time we were here, we did not know how many staff we had, even if you asked us, in terms of the staff establishment. Chairman, since then we have been able to do our human resource policies and procedures. We have been able to do, Chairman, and you have copies there, our organizational structure and staff establishment. So now we are operating. We have been able to make a lot of progress in this area of HR. Are we where we need to be? Maybe not yet, but we have made a lot of progress. We had over 2,200 employees on a manual payroll as of 2022. We have moved all of them, got for them PF numbers, and moved all of them to the IRIS. That is how serious we've been on this matter of HR. Thank you.